bounce back in practice, obviously not having a great first game, just kind of his demeanor?
Yesterday was a day off for us, so we weren't able to practice. But we have two coming up, one here today and then obviously tomorrow. But Brandon, one of the things that he did a great job of is, especially being like you'd mentioned, it's his first college game, real college game. He didn't shoot the ball as well as he's capable, but he did not let that affect the other aspects of his game. He had 5 assists and no turnovers. And Houston Baptist, the one thing they really challenge you on is because of their pressure and the way they want to defend, they can force turnovers. We had 11 in the first half as a team. We had only 2 in the second half. I think that's one of the things that we're the most proud of, is that we were able to put a subpar first half behind us and play a much better game handling the ball in the second half. Brandon had a lot to do with that. As you know, he plays both the 1 and the 2, and I think for him to play the minutes that he did without a turnover, that was a really good sign. The other part is he went 8 for 9 from the foul line, and so far he hasn't shot the ball as well from the foul line, and he's an excellent free throw shooter. So, again, our team did a good job making free throws, and Brandon really he bolstered us in both of those categories, taking care of the ball and making free throws, in spite of the fact that he didn't have his normal performance shooting.
You mentioned that now with 2 guys, with Brandon and also with Dylan Smith, guys that haven't really maybe are struggling offensively but are doing other things. Do you find you have more of those guys this year?
Well, Brandon didn't shoot the ball as well in this particular game, but the last 2 he did. So I think he's been very efficient, shooting. Dylan has struggled shooting the ball. He knows that. But to his credit, he's maybe the most determined defensive player we have. This past game, we give awards post-game, and one of the awards is just the defender of the game. And that's our opinion as a coaching staff based on the player that did things the best on that side of the ball. And also, the hustler, the guy that dives on the floor or gives his body up, drawing charges, making hard plays on the ball, things that every coach and every team loves to have in a player. Dylan won both of those awards. So, again, I think it says a lot about him, as frustrated as he might be, because he's a better shooter than he's shown, that he's doing those other things. And I think his teammates really respect that. I know I respect that. And we're looking forward to him settling in and, taking good shots and making a few of those as well.
So with Dylan, it was, like you say, he's doing a lot of the other stuff. Is there, he's been a pretty good shooter his whole career. Is is there something missing? Do you think he's trying too hard, or any kind of thing you can point to with his shot?
No, they just haven't fallen, and sometimes when you've worked as hard as our guys have this off season, you want to get off to a good start. When it doesn't necessarily happen right away, you can sometimes put more pressure on yourself. I don't look at Dylan at all as playing scared. Playing scared means that you're not doing anything out there. That you can't remember plays. You're not playing hard on defense. He's doing every single thing we're asking him to do. And I think it's a matter of him really settling in, taking good shots, not trying to make the next shot to get on the board, but just really trying to take a quality shot, not worrying about the consequence of a miss or make, and moving on. But, as a coach, you always see players go through stretches where they don't shoot the ball as well. And the answer is always to work extra in practice, after practice. And then when you get in a game, don't make it too big of a deal. There's a lot of other aspects of the game that he can help us with, and he's really done that.
Your best perimeter defender, would you say, at this point?
If he isn't, he's right there. He's also experienced. Think about Dylan. He sat out 1 year, so he practiced every single day. And then he's really been here all of last year and then this year. So he's one of the rare players that we have that's been in our program, in his 3rd year. That's to his advantage. And but I also think that Dylan wants to win. He recognizes that's a role that he can carve out, and he's trying very hard to do the best he can.
Where has the team felt Justin Coleman's impact the most so far?
Well, first of all, Justin Coleman is a tremendous person off the court, in the locker room, on a daily basis. I haven't been around too many people that I've coached that are the same every day like him. You know, he brings a smile to everybody. He's just a great, great kid. It's one of the big reasons why his teammates, you know, voted for him to be the captain, one of our two captains. And he also works at it. I mean, in practice, he gives great effort. And I think his heart is always in the right place. You know, he's very unselfish as a player. But I think more than anything, what we feel from him is just his overall presence away from basketball, you know, in between a game and a practice and a game. You know, you need those older players that make sure that everybody's okay and that they set the tone. And he's really a tone setter for our team.
Was it your idea to put the captain's patches on the jerseys?
Yes, and you know we talked a lot this summer about kind of implementing things to establish, you know, our way of doing things. In the past, leadership always emerges as the year goes on, but we didn't necessarily vote for captains. This year we did, and I think that's something that, you know, the families of those two guys themselves, they should feel really good that they earned the respect of the coaches and their teammates to be the two people that we feel are our captains. And the other thing I like about both Chase and Justin is they're not young, you know, so they have a track record of college basketball. Both have been, you know, in other programs. They've overcome adversity. They've worked very hard. You know, this is the final stop for those guys, and I think they want to make the most of it. So I think we're really excited about the fact that those two guys are our leaders.
You talked in your opening presser about obviously shooting more three-point shots this year. You're kind of around 24 a game. Is that the number? Is that about the pace that you want to be at?
No, that's a great question. You know, the game has changed, and, you know, certainly every coach has to cater to the talent of his team, you know, who we have. We have more guards and wings, forwards this year, less front court players. One of our front court players, Ryan Luther, happens to be one of our best three-point shooters. So taking advantage of that is a big, big deal. If you study our program, you know, under my direction, especially the last 6 seasons, you know, we've been a team that scores from the free throw line. A couple of our teams have been really good free throw shooting teams as well and score a lot inside the arc from 2. We've had teams that shoot a very high percentage from 3, but we just didn't shoot a lot per game. This year, no doubt, the percentage of points that we're going to score are going to come more from behind the three-point line than maybe the last 6 years. And that's okay. I think some of it is we're recruiting to that. We're working to, you know, create good open three-point shots. And but, you know, you don't want to live and die by the 3. So I think early on here, that's something we're really trying to teach our team. What's a good three-point shot and what isn't? You know, how can we get to the free throw line? How can we get more 2-point field goals? So although we recognize we're going to shoot more threes, we certainly don't want to be just kind of that one-trick pony where if we make them, we're great. If not, we're in trouble. We do still want to have balance. But to answer your question, we should depend more on the three-point shot this year than we have in recent years because of our team.
When you talk about the number, not only all the new guys, but like you said, the returning guys all going into different roles this season, how would you assess how that's going as far as guys getting used to that now that you've had a couple exhibition games, one regular season and a couple more before you go to Maui?
That always works itself out, especially in the month of November. You know, every time we play a game, you know, every time we learn from the game and move through practices leading up to the next game, you know, players get more comfortable, even the upperclassmen. With freshmen, I don't know if any coach right now has everything completely worked out. You know, the thing about first-year players or freshmen, what those guys do is they improve by leaps and bounds. You know, if you judge them all here in the beginning of the season and you don't take into account maybe where they'll be around Christmas, you know, it's really not a fair assessment because everything's new to them. First home game, first time you see a zone defense, you know, first time you play an away game. So they're going through a lot of firsts, and that's one of the things I'm so happy with Brandon Williams about. He's very consistent in his approach. He works hard at the game. He's got a great attitude, and you know, he learns from his mistakes, and when things go well, you know, he doesn't get too high. So I think his consistent demeanor is something that will really carry him through. He's going to have a great freshman year, but I think in part because he really has a great way about him.
How different is that approach for someone that's been in his position, highly recruited guy like that?
Well, we've had a great group of guys that have been like Brandon in the past. I think of Lowry. You think of somebody like DeAndre. Those guys. They really had a tremendous team attitude. They worked hard. They listened and learned. Brandon is similar to that. So is Devonair. Those two guys have a great attitude, and I think that's one of the strengths of our team. We really have a tremendous group of kids that are willing to work hard, and it seems like to me that they want to do things the right way, care about each other. That can change certainly as the season grows, but for the most part, I look at that as a strength of our team, and it's really anchored by what we talked about a minute ago, and that is Justin Coleman and Chase Jeter's leadership.
How do you plan on using the lack of size to the team's advantage this year?
Well, one thing is to utilize the three-point shot to our advantage. I think secondly is to create driving opportunities. When you have a bunch of guys on the court who are skilled, the court kind of opens up more, and we don't want to just shoot three-point shots. We want to get to the foul line and get twos. So I think offensively, that's one way. Ball movement, pace up and down the court with more wings and guards. You should be a little bit quicker and faster. Defensively, we have to be really good at the things we can control. I think, the glaring weakness here initially, and I knew that we were up against it, is just our defensive rebounding. That was probably the biggest disappointment from our season opener. Houston Baptist really had their way with us rebounding, and we can fix that. We can't do it by making our guys taller. We have to be able to do it by blocking out and having our point guard, block people out and being physical. We don't have that room for error. And that also doesn't mean we can't be a very good defensive rebounding team. It's just we have to do it a different way. In the past, we've been blessed with great size. Rondé Hollis Jefferson was at the game the other night, and when he came into the locker room, I just looked at him, and it was a reminder to me of how big he is, how long his arms are. And Rondé played a lot of times with two front court players in the same game as he was in. So, if he was on this year's team, he might be one of our biggest guys. So with that, our rebounding has to be done as a team, and we can't back down. We have to understand that we have to be physical, and everybody has a responsibility. That takes time to build, but we can't wait around for that to happen, because you give second shots up like we did the other night, a lot of bad things will follow.
How would you best categorize a good three from a bad three?
I think a good three is going to be, number one, the ball reversal first. Maybe the ball touched the low post. I think an early three has to be just a wide open, uncontested three, no one around. And that one's easily understood. But you start to take threes early in possessions, off the dribble threes. It's defended. You're shooting over somebody. That's fool's gold. That might work in a certain moment. Over the long haul, that will do us in. So, we want to get threes, kind of 1-2 step rhythm shots when the ball's moved, and we've created a good opportunity. And this isn't an equal opportunity. It's not everybody who puts the uniform on can shoot threes. There are some guys that are better shooters than others, and when you talk about defining roles, we don't want everybody on the court to feel like they're equal. If you shoot the ball to a certain level, and you've earned the right to take that type of shot in the game, and if you haven't, then you're the guy who should be looking to make the one more pass. But I don't look at that as a problem with our team right now. I think that we've moved in a good direction to establish who shoots and who doesn't.
What's the plan for Ira coming back in his first game?
Ira's practiced with us every day. So although he didn't play in the season opener, and I wish we had him, but he's full go, and the role that he'll have on Sunday would be the role he would have had if he played in the first game.
Should we expect to see more zone defense this year with the lack of size defensively?
We might mix it in. But I think you can only get good at certain things, and for us, maybe a little bit more full court pressure, maybe in our man-to-man showing different looks, like trapping the low post, which helps our lack of size, trapping a ball screen, which plays to our quickness, picking up full court. Those are things that I think cater more to our team's size than maybe mixing in the zone.
For the lack of titles, I know we've gotten so used to calling your defense pack line, and maybe we're seeing a little bit less of that. Is this a system that has kind of a function or a name to it at all?
No, I would say, we are philosophically, it's the same. It's just that you got different guys doing it. A year ago, we accomplished a lot of things. I mean, I think if you win a regular season championship and you win your tournament championship, you make the NCAA tournament, those are all things that a lot of great programs covet. Unfortunately, a year ago, we got bounced from the tournament, and that's our responsibility. That falls on the coach and the team, and nobody feels good about that for sure. But we never really established our defense, and I think if you look historically, we were at times very mediocre, almost subpar. Some of it had to do with personnel. Some of it might have had to do with coaching. I had to do a better job. But I hope that, when it all ends this year, that we can point to kind of our team getting back to being stingy, hard playing together, and maybe repair some of the things that we weren't able to quite get right a year ago. Offensively, a year ago, there was a lot of great things that happened, and some of that was also our talent. But I don't know this year if our offense will ever reach the heights of a year ago, but my hope is that our defense can be better.
When you talk about the role players, you mentioned Brandon Williams taking the freshman, handling pretty well coming in his spot, but and Randolph's numbers seem to indicate that he's moved up to that role. I didn't know if with him or any of the other maybe sophomores, Alex, Emmanuel, any of those guys, if you had to, kind of push them to get comfortable with certain things you want them to do this year as opposed to last year, or especially because in some of those guys' cases they weren't able to play maybe as much as they're going to now.
Well, Brandon is a great example of somebody who's an improved player. Like I had mentioned, previously, a lot of these guys practiced very, very hard a year ago. They were playing against some great talent. Playing against Raleigh every day, playing against Alonzo every day, and you look at a guy like Chase a year ago practicing against Dusan and DeAndre, Keanu. Our practice, was very competitive, and those guys improved. They learned our system, and then they followed that up with a very hard-working off-season. And Brandon Randolph, he's off to a tremendous start. As always, the 25 points, heck, that's something that we're very, very happy about. I hope he gets 25 again on Sunday. But there's always things that he can do better, and he'll do those things better, defensively, rebounding. But, Brandon is really on the right track. He's better every day in practice, and he's shown, obviously, in games that he's a scorer, an excellent shooter. And I think we're just trying to make him better, and he's eager to learn.
Cal Poly, they've struggled a little bit, but I know lately, but they have kind of a matchup zone, I guess they're throwing out. I'm wondering I think when you played them several years ago, they had a pretty good team doing that as well. I was wondering what you expect Sunday, and could that be different to face that kind of defense?
Yes, we haven't played against a zone in games. We work on it every day in practice, but that will be one of the keys to us being successful on Sunday, is being able to function and move the ball, take great shots, not allow that type of defense to take us out of our rhythm, and us be confident against it. So we'll certainly work hard these next couple of days to prepare for it, but no doubt when you play against Cal Poly, I think attacking that zone is a big part of any team's success that plays against them.
Sean, do you have other awards? You mentioned Defender and Hustle. Are there other game awards you guys get? Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to Daniel about that. This is really the first year we've done it. We've always talked, after a game. We call it feedback. What we did well, what we didn't do well, and also which players did this exceptionally well, and maybe, in some cases what they didn't do very well as an individual. But, you know, categorizing it for them, and so we have basically the player of the game, the guy that statistically did the best job. We have the hustler of the game, you know, somebody that, you know, gives of himself, you know, first to the floor, hard plays on the ball, drawing charges. A lot of evidence to back that up, obviously. Sixth man of the game, that's the player that doesn't start but comes in and really impacts the game in a big way as a non-starter. Obviously, that's a big award because you want depth and you want different people to contribute in different ways. Playmaker of the game, you know, the guy that assist-to-turnover ratio really found his teammates. And in some cases, you know, and Justin Coleman's been a great example, you know, 3 or 4 of his passes really could have been an assist. The guy just missed the wide open shot, and taking that into account. So that's the playmaker of the game. Obviously, the defender of the game, you know, from our coaching staff's perspective, the guy who did his job. You know, sometimes block shots, steals, deflections can be a part of it, but for the most part, somebody who just really embodied the qualities that we want to see and did it the best. And then I think the last one is the screener of the game, and, you know, sometimes that's unselfish and overlooked because that doesn't stand out. But same thing like an assist. Guys start setting great screens, freeing up teammates. You know, sometimes the shot that his teammate gets, he misses, but he was wide open for a reason. And I think we want to promote that. So those are the awards. There should be 6 of them if I got all of them. And I think we're going to start posting those maybe when we move to the next game and sharing that a little bit with our fans.
Does Alonzo Trier's success come to any surprise to you if he's winning the NBA right now?
Not at all. You know, in my time as a coach, I was never around a player that loves the game of basketball more than Alonzo. He backs that up by an incredible work ethic, incredible. Being in the gym, the Richard Jefferson gym, you know, our practice facility, being in McHale early in the morning, late at night, early to practice, staying after practice, game day, you know, going through our team's shoot-around, and being the last to leave, being the first to get there, and doing it day in, day out. You know, he became a very, very efficient shooter. A year ago, he didn't get enough credit for how efficient he was. His ability to score from every level, free throw line and get there, 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, and you know, he hit a little bit of a valley at the end, and other than that, I mean, he was on pace to shoot, I think, 80 from the line, over 40 from 3, and over 50 from 2. There aren't many guards that do that. It's the same thing with his assist to turnover. He's, I think, career best around 3 assists a game. So he was certainly overlooked, but really proud of him, happy for him, and I'm happy for the New York Knicks. You know, they did their homework, and they got themselves quite a player, especially to be undrafted.
There was a report this week that possibly NCAA might go ahead with some of the stuff out of the trial evidence or whatever and go ahead and move forward. And I was wondering, would that be something you would like to see, that maybe some of the stuff gets taken care of with NCAA, you know, kind of get it over with, so to speak, or do you have an?
I'm not sure where you're going.
In other words, if whatever's going on in the federal trials, there was some talk that they were going to wait till all the trials and appeals were done before the NCAA would launch their own investigations and come up with sanctions or nothing or whatever and resolve it. And now it sounds like maybe in some cases, maybe not with you guys, but that some of the schools might get a quicker resolution, I guess. So. No opinion on whether that.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, I'm wondering if, you know, you might get a quicker answer basically on whether any of this stuff matters at all or could be a violation or maybe not, as opposed to waiting a year or 2.